Michael had grown tired of the relentless hustle of New York City, the constant noise, the rush of the subway, and the towering skyscrapers that loomed over him began to feel suffocating. At 32, he found himself at a crossroads, yearning for something different, something more meaningful. His job in digital marketing paid the bills, but it left him feeling unfulfilled. He often daydreamed about pristine beaches, vibrant cultures, and a simpler life. The idea of leaving everything behind and starting anew somewhere far away took root in his mind, fueled by countless late-night discussions with friends and the increasing monotony of daily life. What would it be like to live in another country, especially somewhere as diverse and colorful as the Philippines? This question lingered in his mind, stirring excitement and trepidation in equal measure. After much contemplation, he decided to take the leap. The promise of warm sunshine, laid-back living, and the potential for adventure called to him. He envisioned himself sipping fresh coconut water by the beach, surrounded by lush greens and warm smiles. Yet dreams are often tinged with a naivete that reality can swiftly shatter. Planning the move was an exhilarating process. He meticulously researched the culture, language, and living arrangements. He signed up for online language classes, setting a goal to learn Tagalog, determined to connect more deeply with the locals. His friends were supportive but worried. Would he be able to make this transition? Would the reality live up to his expectations? As he packed his belongings and sold most of what he owned, he felt a mixture of excitement and fear. It was a huge decision that would change the course of his life forever. The day finally arrived when Michael boarded the plane, his heart racing with anticipation. As the aircraft soared through the clouds, he couldn't help but wonder what awaited him in the Philippines. Would the locals embrace him? Would he find the community he'd been searching for? He was ready for adventure, but could he handle the challenges that lay ahead? His mind was a whirlwind of questions and wild expectations, each one eclipsed by the thrill of entering uncharted territory. Upon arrival, the first thing that struck Michael was the overwhelming heat and the scent of the ocean mixed with street food. Yet, beneath the vibrant atmosphere, a stark reality began to set in. The language barrier, while not insurmountable, proved formidable at first. Michael quickly realized that speaking English was not always enough. The nuances of Tagalog and the local dialects added layers of complexity that left him feeling isolated. Simple interactions turned into minor battles of comprehension, leading to frustration and loneliness. How could he connect with others when a word as simple as hello felt different? Additionally, the cost of living presented unexpected challenges. Although he had prepared a budget, the actual expenses were higher than anticipated. Local markets offered a variety of fresh produce, but the cost of imported goods hit his pocket more than he had planned. The dream of a peaceful, easy lifestyle began to feel like an uphill struggle, and with each passing day, the glamour of new beginnings began to fade. He questioned his decision. Was this really what he wanted? The enchanting images in his mind clashed with the stark realities of life in a foreign country. As weeks turned into months, feelings of loneliness took root. The warmth he had anticipated in the locals felt just out of reach. Making friends proved difficult. Gathering in social circles did not come as easily as he had hoped. He missed the small talk with baristas, the casual conversations on the subway, and the comforting familiarity of his home. Did everyone else feel as connected as he had imagined? Or was he the only one struggling to bridge the cultural gap? In moments of quiet reflection, he found himself pondering the choices he made. Was he strong enough to endure the loneliness? Did he have what it took to carve out a life in this new world? These questions weighed heavily on him, but they also sparked a fire deep within, urging him to push through the initial discomfort. Michael understood that growth often comes from overcoming adversity, and perhaps the struggle was part of the journey he needed to embrace. Michael's story is not just about moving to the Philippines. It's about the universal quest for belonging, understanding, and meaning. Each person who ventures into the unknown faces this daunting challenge. How do we adapt when faced with obstacles? And what does it truly mean to build a new life in a place filled with both beauty and difficulty? These are the reflections that swirl in the mind of anyone daring enough to break free from the familiar and seek a different path in life. As days blurred into weeks, the thrill of Michael's adventure began to wear off, and the harsh realities of life in the Philippines seeped through the cracks of his initial excitement. The bustling streets of Manila, once vibrant and inviting, now felt overwhelming. The language barrier he had briefly acknowledged became a daily struggle. Ordering food or asking for directions turned into a game of charades, relying on hand gestures and context rather than words. How could something so simple turn into such a source of frustration? Each miscommunication felt like a brick added to the wall of isolation he was inadvertently building around himself. Financially, he was beginning to feel the strain. Despite having saved a reasonable amount, Michael didn't account for the little things that added up transportation costs, the higher expense of certain groceries, and unexpected utilities. He had confidently estimated that his lifestyle would be significantly cheaper than in New York, and while some aspects were indeed affordable, others were surprisingly expensive. Michael often found himself gazing longingly at the exotic fruits and street food vendors, knowing that indulging in too many treats would stretch his budget painfully thin. The weight of financial insecurity hung over him like a dark cloud, dampening his spirits. Solitude became a constant companion. In a city teeming with people, the irony of feeling so alone was not lost on him. Despite his efforts to meet people, the connections he forged remained surface level. Casual conversations felt hollow, and friendships never seemed to blossom into deeper, more meaningful relationships. Each lonely evening spent at home heightened his sense of isolation. He often reflected on the simplicity of casual conversations back in the States, where he felt at ease with familiar faces in familiar settings. Was it his fault for not trying hard enough, or was it simply the nature of starting over in an unfamiliar land? Through this solitude, Michael found himself grappling with his own thoughts and emotions more intensely than ever before. He thought he was prepared for the adventure, but perhaps he had underestimated the emotional toll it would take on him. Would he have to radically change who he was to fit in, or could he find a way to retain his identity while integrating into a new culture? The sleepless nights filled with introspection gave rise to profound questions about self-worth and belonging, forcing him to confront insecurities he had long buried. It was during one of these lonely evenings, drowning in thoughts of his life's purpose, that a small flicker of hope appeared. Michael received an invitation from a local community group for an informal gathering, a meetup designed for expats looking to connect and support one another. While anxiety gripped him at the thought of stepping into another unknown, the prospect of meeting others who might understand his struggles intrigued him. That evening, amidst the noise of laughter and chatter, Michael felt the first glimmer of connection. As he introduced himself, several attendees empathized with his experience of navigating life in a new country. He learned that he was not alone. Many others had faced similar hurdles in their quest for belonging. Conversations flowed easily, facilitated by shared experiences and the mutual desire to build community. Just being surrounded by people who understood contributed to reducing his deep sense of isolation. Why hadn't he sought this out sooner? Within this new circle, Michael met Lito, a vibrant businessman who had lived in the Philippines all his life. Lito was charismatic and engaging, effortlessly weaving stories that showcased the beauty and complexity of Filipino culture. He became a mentor to Michael, showing him that the path to integration was not as daunting as it seemed. Lito's stories inspired Michael to venture out of his shell, encouraging him to explore local markets, discover hidden gems, and embrace the culture fully. Lito also introduced Michael to local ways of earning money that aligned with his skills, helping him brainstorm ideas that could lift his financial burden. They discussed the potential of online English teaching and consulting, paths that felt rewarding and perfectly suitable for his background in marketing. For the first time since arriving, Michael began to envision a future that was less about surviving and more about thriving. Michael's growing connection with Lito and the community breathed new life into him. The darkness of despair slowly lifted. His perspective began to shift as he learned to appreciate the beauty of the Filipino lifestyle at a slower pace, richer conversations, and a sense of communal living that went beyond individualism. He realized that integration was not just about learning the language or customs, but truly opening himself to the experiences of others, appreciating their traditions and perspectives. This newfound understanding brought Michael a clarity that had eluded him since arriving. He recognized that challenges were inevitable in any transformation, but perhaps these very struggles were what made the journey worthwhile. Would he be able to fully immerse himself in Filipino culture, or would he remain the outsider? As reflections of his past began surfacing, Michael made a silent promise to stay open-minded and embrace the unknown. The Philippines continued to surprise him, teaching him lessons he never anticipated learning. With Lito's guidance, Michael felt equipped to face the trials ahead, hopeful that the journey would lead to a deeper connection not only with the country, but with himself. After those first few turbulent months, Michael's life in the Philippines began to transform in ways he never expected. The initial shock of reality had given way to a newfound sense of purpose, largely thanks to his budding friendship with Lito and the community he was starting to build around him. It was during one of their regular meetups at a local cafe that Lito shared a piece of wisdom that struck a chord within Michael. Sometimes, you have to embrace the discomfort to grow. This seemingly simple statement resonated deeply with him. He realized that instead of running from the awkwardness of navigating a new culture, he needed to lean into it. With Lito's support and encouragement, Michael started taking small steps toward integrating more fully into his new environment. He began to attend local festivals, where he immersed himself in the vibrant displays of music, dance, and food. Slowly, he learned to greet people in Tagalog, his pronunciation punctuated by laughter and the inevitable mistakes that came with learning a new language. Each small victory felt monumental, chipping away at the wall of isolation he had built around himself. During one particular festival, he was introduced to Maya, a local artist whose joyful spirit and captivating stories left a lasting impression on him. They bonded over their love for the arts and shared dreams of exploring different cultures. Maya's warmth made Michael feel seen and appreciated, and for the first time, he sensed a deep connection that transcended the typical expat interactions. Their conversations flowed effortlessly as they discussed everything from art to ambitions, and it was clear that Michael was beginning to build genuine relationships. Maya became a guiding light in his life. She introduced him to the intricacies of Filipino culture traditions he'd never heard of, like the significance of the fiesta, which celebrated both community and familial ties. With each outing, whether it was sharing street food at a night market or exploring the beaches, Michael felt more at home. He was beginning to embrace the beauty of this new life, discovering that adaptation didn't mean losing himself, but rather expanding his understanding of the world. In an unexpected twist, Michael found himself getting involved in a local project that focused on teaching English to children in underserved communities. The opportunity aligned perfectly with his skill set, and though nervous about stepping into such a role, he recognized it as a chance to give back to the community that had begun to feel like home. Lito encouraged him, saying, "You have so much to offer. Sharing your knowledge is a gift." This sentiment ignited a spark in Michael. The idea of imparting knowledge, connecting with children, and making a difference appealed deeply to him. As he stepped into the classroom for the first time, Michael felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The children greeted him with wide, curious eyes, their laughter breaking the initial tension that hung in the air. The experience was deeply rewarding. The energy of the kids was infectious, and their enthusiasm for learning propelled him forward. Each lesson brought him closer to understanding the local community, while allowing him to contribute positively. In those moments, Michael found a profound sense of fulfillment. Yet, the journey was not without its challenges. Amidst the joy of teaching and building relationships, he faced moments of self-doubt. Was he really making a difference? Could someone like him, a foreigner, genuinely contribute to a culture so rich and deeply rooted in its own history? These questions echoed in his mind until he realized that his very presence in the classroom was already a bridge of understanding between two worlds. Through teaching, not only did he share his knowledge of English and culture, but he also learned about their lives, dreams, and struggles. The children's resilience inspired him, reminding him that everyone faces challenges, but it's how we respond that defines us. They were resilient, spirited qualities Michael admired greatly. Wasn't that what he was trying to emulate in his own life? The connection deepened during these lessons, more than any of his initial assumptions about what it meant to live abroad. His friendship with Maya blossomed further as they collaborated on projects to integrate art into the lessons. She brought her creative flair, and together they created an engaging curriculum that made learning enjoyable for the children. They painted murals, crafted stories, and infused joy into every session, proving to Michael that the most rewarding experiences often come from collaboration and shared passion. As his confidence grew, Michael discovered something significant about himself. He was adaptable. He had begun to navigate his new life with a sense of security he didn't think was possible just months earlier. The person who had arrived, feeling lost and isolated, was evolving into someone who found joy in small victories and connected deeply with others. Yet, amid these positive changes, Michael couldn't shake off the occasional pang of homesickness. He missed his family, friends, and the familiarity of home. He often thought about how they might perceive his journey. What would they think of his life in the Philippines? Would they understand the depth of his experiences? These reflections created a bittersweet longing that he knew he had to reconcile. Perhaps that was part of the growth, the realization that he could cherish his past while embracing the present. Each sunrise brought new lessons and experiences that propelled his journey forward. In the dance of culture shock and adaptation, Michael was not merely surviving. He was beginning to thrive, carving out a space where he could be both American and a member of his new Filipino community. What was most significant was that Michael was learning to believe in himself and the power of connection. The warmth of those around him washed over his initial hesitations, reminding him that adventures often come with apprehensions and uncertainties, but they also offer the most profound insights into who we truly are. As months passed, Michael found himself becoming more deeply entrenched in the fabric of life in the Philippines. The vibrant energy of the local community had swept him up, and he was learning to navigate its rhythms with grace. Michael's journey from isolation to connection culminated in a sense of belonging that he initially thought impossible just months before. With Lito and Maya by his side, they formed a close-knit group of friends that extended beyond casual acquaintances. They celebrated birthdays, announced milestones, and supported one another in various endeavors, creating a network that felt increasingly like family. The bond between Michael and Maya blossomed beautifully. There was an unspoken understanding that they had found kindred spirits in one another, an unexpected revelation in the quest for connection. Their shared passions for art and education turned into weekly collaborative workshops where they invited children from the community to explore their creativity. Each session morphed into a celebration of expression, laughter, and learning. But beneath the surface of this joyous collaboration was something deeper brewing between theme and emotional intimacy that began to shape their friendship into something potentially more profound. One evening, as they prepared for another workshop in a vibrant community center adorned with colorful artwork created by the children, Michael found himself reflecting on the past month. Here, surrounded by laughter and the scent of local delicacies, he felt a sense of contentment wash over him. Was it possible that he had finally found the home he was searching for? But a flutter of anxiety rippled through him. Would he be able to maintain this connection as time went on? Would the inevitable challenges of cultural differences put a strain on their developing relationship? Maya seemed to sense his internal struggle and, during a quiet moment between activities, gently asked, "What's on your mind?" Michael opened up about his fears, expressing how grateful he was to have found such meaningful relationships, yet feeling apprehensive about the future. She smiled knowingly, her eyes twinkling, and said, "Every relationship takes effort. Let's just enjoy each moment and see where it leads." Her words reassured him, reminding him that navigating life, especially in a new environment, required courage but also a willingness to be present. Their workshops flourished, and with every session, friendships among the children blossomed. They not only learned English, but also shared stories about their dreams, fears, and aspirations, weaving together a tapestry of interconnected lives. Michael discovered that teaching was more about listening and responding than it was about lecturing, a shift that deepened his relationships with his students and the community. He realized that true connection comes from vulnerability and openness in artistic dance that they all engaged in. One sunny Saturday, as Michael and Maya organized a community art exhibition to showcase the children's work, the responses from families and friends surged with pride. Residents of the neighborhood gathered, voices blending in joyful celebration. The exhibition was vibrant, drawing in families, each more eager than the last to celebrate the creativity of their children. Local vendors set up stalls, creating a festive atmosphere, complete with food, music, and laughter echoing down the streets. In the midst of the event, Michael stood back and took in the scene. One particular mural that captured his attention depicted a dreamscape showing the blend of urban and natural landscapes and artistic reflection of his own journey. When asked about it, a shy boy named Javi shared, "It shows that you can belong anywhere, even if it's different from what you know." The boy's innocence and wisdom struck Michael profoundly. This small reflection resonated deeply within him, was slowly learning to belong, to find familiarity in the unfamiliar. Throughout the event, Michael felt a profound sense of gratitude expanding within him, fueled by the connections he was nurturing. The cultural barriers began to fade into the background as he saw how love, creativity, and shared human experience transcended those boundaries. Each smile from the children, every word of appreciation from their families, strengthened his resolve to contribute positively to this community. Days turned into weeks, and as summer unfolded, they began organizing outdoor gatherings. Lito spearheaded a community sports day, aiming to build camaraderie among participants of all ages. With laughter and competitive spirits, families engaged in friendly contests running races, tug-of-war, and relay games, revealing the playful side of community spirit. Michael dove into the planning with enthusiasm, channeling his energy into creating a memorable experience for everyone involved. Amidst the fun, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the field, Michael found himself alone with Maya. They discussed their visions for the future, where they saw their paths leading, and what role they might play in each other's lives. It was during this quiet moment that Michael realized that Maya had become more than just a friend. She had become a companion in his journey. Hesitations that once held him back began to dissolve. Was it possible that he was falling for her? As thoughts swirled around in his mind, he felt a warmth growing in his chest, a longing to explore what lay beyond friendship. The arrival of local festivities highlighted the vibrant culture in which he was now immersed. During an annual celebration honoring the Stowe Niño, Michael experienced the pulsating heart of Filipino tradition. The streets filled with parades showcasing traditional costumes, energetic dances, and the aroma of local delicacies wafting through the air. As the local people celebrated their heritage, Michael felt a deep sense of belonging swell within him. He was part of something larger than himself, a community rich with history and stories woven into the fabric of each celebration. As he danced alongside locals, embraced the rhythm of the festivities, and laughed with friends old and new, Michael realized that he had transformed from the unsure outsider into an integral part of this lively tapestry. Moments like these ignited his passion, reminding him of the beauty of shared experiences. He had not only embraced the culture around him, but had also woven his own narrative into the lives of those he had grown to love. That night, enveloped in the warmth of camaraderie and joy, Michael understood that this journey was not just about adapting to a new environment, but about building relationships that colored his world in countless ways. What would the next chapter of his life bring? Would his connection with Maya deepen into something more profound? As the stars twinkled above him, he found solace in knowing that, whatever the future held, he was finally living fully, embracing every moment and the lessons they brought. As the sun rose on a new day, Michael found himself at a crossroads. His life in the Philippines had blossomed in ways he never could have imagined. The community embraced him, friendships deepened, and he felt a sense of being home that he had long searched for. Yet, as joyous as these developments were, Michael's newfound sense of belonging also brought an unsettling awareness. He had committed to this life, but what did it mean for his future? With each passing day, the contrasting elements of his life began to weigh heavily on his heart. Back in the States, his family, friends, and familiar routines beckoned. Birthdays passed without his presence. Friends reached milestones he couldn't celebrate, and he felt both grateful for his experiences in the Philippines and a gnawing guilt for being so far away. How long could he continue living this dual existence? Would he need to choose between his old life and the new one he was building? During one of their evening workshops, as children showcased their artwork, Michael caught Maya's eye. She smiled at him, her laughter infectious, and in that moment he wished he could freeze time. The thought of reciprocating feelings for her filled him with both excitement and trepidation. What would a relationship mean amid all this uncertainty? As they cleaned up after the event, he contemplated the next steps. Did he dare to explore the depth of his feelings for her in this context of potential instability? After the last of the children waved goodbye, Maya turned to him, her expression curious. "You've been quieter than usual. What's on your heart?" Taking a deep breath, he shared the turmoil in his mind, the tug-of-war between his past and present, and his feelings about the future. He explained how much the experience in the Philippines meant to him, but also how he felt torn about the life he left behind. As he spoke, Maya listened intently, nodding and occasionally sharing her own experiences of doubt and longing for familial connections, especially during the holidays. "Life is always about choices, isn't it?" she said softly. "We can find balance between where we are and where we've come from, but you can't forget about yourself during the process." Her support felt like a warm embrace, grounding him amid his swirling thoughts. Maya's words sparked further reflection. He realized that he didn't have to make an immediate decision about his future. Maybe it was possible to explore his relationship with Maya while allowing himself time to process his emotions about home. Time seemed to be the key, a commodity he sometimes lacked, but now understood was about being present in both worlds. In the following weeks, Michael focused on fostering his connections within the community while nurturing his emerging feelings for Maya. They spent more time together, often after workshops, walking through local markets or dining at charming little restaurants hidden away from the usual tourist paths. Each moment together felt more profound as they discussed dreams, ambitions, and life experiences that shaped them. One evening, as they strolled along the beach at sunset, painting the sky in brilliant hues, Michael decided to take a leap of faith. Posting closer to Maya, he asked, "Have you ever thought about what it means to truly belong somewhere?" She paused, looking out over the water before turning back to him. "I think belonging is about heart and spirit," she replied thoughtfully. "It's the connections we make along the journey. even if we come from different worlds. I feel at home when I'm with you, even amid the noise of this city. The sincerity in her voice made Michael's heart race. Gathering his courage, he leaned in closer. I feel the same way. Being here with you makes me happy. I want to explore this, whatever this is. A soft smile spread across Maya's face as she examined his expression. So, you're saying you want to see where we can go together? Yes, he replied, feeling a weight lift as he spoke the words. I want to embrace what's unfolding between us. The quiet moment dissolved into laughter, and from that day forward, their relationship grew organically, each day unfolding new layers of companionship and romantic exploration. They shared meals, exchanged heartfelt stories, and reveled in each other's company, strengthening the bond between them amidst the complexity of his situation. Yet, even as his relationship with Maya blossomed, Michael couldn't shake off the persistent undercurrent of obligation to his past in America. He began to question how long he could stay, weighing the possibility of returning for important family events, like his sister's upcoming wedding. Would he go home just for a visit, or was it time to settle back into the life he once knew? In an effort to find clarity, he reached out to his family. Their conversation struck a balance, sharing updates on life events, while also delving into deeper emotional connections over video calls. They expressed pride in his journey and often encouraged him to stay true to himself. However, hearing their voices also emphasized the distance that had grown and reminded him of the social gatherings and milestones that he was missing. One evening, after a particularly poignant call with his mother, Michael found himself sifting through old photos on his phone, looking at images of family reunions, him laughing with friends, and memories that shaped who he was. The nostalgia was bittersweet. The memories were filled with warmth, but weighed down by a subtle reminder of the life left behind. That night, he confided in Maya, sharing his feelings of longing for home and his family. As she listened, she echoed the sentiment that it was okay to feel conflicted. These feelings don't diminish what you're creating here, Michael. You're allowed to feel both the joy of this new life and the love for your family back home. Maya's understanding brought him comfort. Their connection became stronger as they navigated the complexities of life together, explicitly embracing the duality of their experiences. As he continued deepening his roots in the Philippines, he began to acknowledge that it was possible to build a future that honored both continents, both identities. The warmth of community and friendships intertwined with his deepening connection with Maya gradually motivated him to explore the next steps in his journey. Would he finalize the arrangement to build a meaningful career in the Philippines and sustain the relationships that had become a cornerstone of his life? A month later, determined to find a balance, Michael made plans to return to the States for his sister's wedding. He knew that reconnecting with his family would bring closure to that chapter, allowing him to embrace his new life wholeheartedly upon his return. As he prepared for the trip, he felt a mix of excitement and anxiety and awareness that the decisions made now would shape not only his present, but also his future bonds with both worlds. Arriving back in New York was surreal. Walking through familiar streets felt like stepping into a time machine. Everything was both the same, yet fundamentally altered. His family greeted him with open arms, and the warmth of those interactions reminded him of the love tethering him to his roots. Yet, amidst the joy, he couldn't help but feel an aching awareness of what he had left behind in Manila. Conversations flowed naturally, but each gathering brought fleeting thoughts of his new life, urging him to reflect on how deeply he had grown beyond his old self. The stark contrast was both enlightening and daunting, urging him to reconcile this duality. As he stood among family, Michael made use of the opportunity to share stories of his life in the Philippines, proudly introducing the richness of his new experience. And while nostalgia tugged at his heartstrings, he realized that the journey of self-discovery was not a linear path, but a series of intertwining moments that led to profound fulfillment. As festivities peaked during the wedding day festivities, surrounded by family and love, Michael saw a vision of what his life could be, tapestry-rich with both experiences. Returning to Manila filled him with renewed zeal and clearer insights. The relationships he had nurtured were no longer disparate threads. They were now facets of a colorful mosaic, embodying experiences from both worlds. He knew the journey ahead might involve difficult decisions, yet with each passing day, he embraced the belief that he could forge a path that embraced all that he had become, intertwining roots of his past with the blossoming future he envisioned in the Philippines. Now, more than ever, he felt ready to step fully into his life, anticipating the challenges ahead, while steadfast in the belief that he would face them anchored in love, community, and hope.